The Rotary Foundation exists to help Rotarians do what they want to do around the world. We are the fuel to the fire of the vast variety of projects that people want to support around the world. Without the foundation, the global grant projects, the wells, everything that goes in to change people's lives around the world can't happen. And that's why I love what we do at the foundation. It's a partnership, it's collaboration, but we are the dollars that are there to support the great projects around the world. That is what we do. We help. We are the catalyst that can help people do what they want to do around the world through Rotary and make that vast impact that everyone is trying to do through our organization. The other thing that's great about our foundation is that we spend this money so wisely. So just as of last week, we earned our 16th consecutive 4-star rating from Charity Navigator. 89, it's really close to 90% of funds are spent on program awards and operations. So that means when someone is donating to the foundation, their dollars are going to what they intended to. And this is great because it gives people support and it gives people confidence in what they're supporting. If they feel like the money isn't going where it's supposed to be going, they're a little less weary of that. But with an organization like ours, the amount of times I talk to people and they say, one of the reasons I support Rotary so passionately is because of things like this. This never came up in my previous work with college athletic fundraising. No one was asking me about Charity Navigator. But because with Rotary, it's so important to us, we continue to do all we can to make sure overhead costs are minimal and dollars are going where they need to go to support the great work around the world. So what did we do last year? How much money did we raise? Well, we set a really aspirational goal. So I'm going to put that in everybody's mind, right? The public goal was $500 million last year. We have never gotten close to that, but I love Barry, and Barry said we're going to shoot for the moon. And we got to continue to set that bar higher and higher. So last year we raised $417 million. That's still an incredible amount of money. And I think some people are like, well, we didn't get to 500. It's okay. We got to shoot higher each and every year and continue to push for it. And I'll tell you, we're trying to raise 500 million again this year. It's our goal and it includes a lot of facets. So $417 million from Rotarians doing good around the world. It's amazing when you think about what that money is going to do. So now I kind of want to show you how that broke out based on categories of where that money was directed. So you can see here, and there's a lot of data and number. I hope it's large enough for everybody. 142 million of that went to our annual fund. 39.5 million went to our endowment fund. And that is outright gifts to the endowment fund at the top. So the top is outright gifts, not estate commitments like people make with future gifts. 123 went to Polio Plus, and 47 million went to other, which is global grant cash gifts and people supporting their donor advised funds. Then we have our expectancies, which are people that are making future commitments to us. $54.3 million went to that, and a grand total of 417.7. This is incredible when we look at it. And I can tell you some of the areas we're seeing the most growth are in our endowment fund. We're seeing a lot of people understand the message of the power of the endowment fund. And I'm going to touch on that a little bit later of why that's so important to us as an organization. But one of my other favorite charts to think about is this next chart I'm going to show you, which is contributions by amount. There's a lot of numbers on here, and I apologize for this. But the things I want to highlight, if you look at the $100 level on this chart, $35 million of our outright contributions came from people giving $100 a year. 58 million of what came into the Rotary Foundation and outright was from people that are Paul Harris Society members at $1,000 a year. That's a massive amount of this $212 million. And so every time people talk about it, well, I give 100, I give 500, never going to be a major donor. Every gift is so important to what we do, and the magnitude of it is multiplied when you have so many more people also giving that amount around the world. So every time you make a gift, no matter the amount, it's making a difference. And I think this chart really demonstrates the impact that gifts of every single amount can have and can add up over time. But what are these gifts doing, and how do they kind of benefit when you think about it at each level, right? So as I said, gifts of any size can make an impact. In the year 22-23, because we're still figuring out our global grant numbers for 23-24, we were able to do 1,098 global grants around the world because of our generous donors. That's a lot of incredible work that's being done. And if you think about it, a $50 gift can give someone access to a water filter. $320 can give someone that peace leadership training to make our world a more peaceful place. $1,000 can provide new medical equipment. Every single gift, when added up, is making a difference. And so always know, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're giving, your gift is going to be an action to change someone's life around the world. Now, I mentioned these global grants. They're kind of our bread and butter to what we do. They're the big picture projects that people are trying to be a part of. And I know you all have been a lot of part of those down in the Central America area with water projects and things like that. But let's take a look at kind of how our global grants have been divided out since the year Rotary year 2014. Our top project where most of our global grants are done continues to be disease prevention and treatment. Part of this is just my rationale, is because we have such strong ties with Polio Plus and all the great work we've done there, we've been able to build upon those skills with other projects and connections to do a lot of work in that area. But water and sanitation, our second highest amount of global grant projects are being done in that area. You can see the others as well. And even our environment, which is our newest area of focus, is almost at $6 million in global grant projects. These continue to grow over time, but I think it's great to look at this and get an understanding of where are these projects being done? What areas of focus? And there's so many being done in all of these, but it's great to kind of see where the preference is. And the other thing when you think about global grants is people get this notion that they have to be done around the world. They can't be done in our own backyard. Well, they can be done both. And I want to highlight a couple of them right here too. One of my favorite global grant projects to talk about is the Guatemala Literacy Project. This has been going on since 1997. This global grant has been taking place since 1997, and the amount of clubs and districts that have participated in this, if we printed out the entire list, it'd pretty much be every single club, I think, in the world, maybe minus a few. So many groups have contributed $1,000 here, $2,000 there. And this project, which is trying to tackle literacy in this country, has not just said, we're only going to do it this one way. They've expanded on it year after year. They provided technology. They provided textbooks. They've improved the instructional abilities of the teachers. They're tackling the issue from many layers of it. And that is why global grants are so powerful. They're able to take it and say, okay, here's the problem. Let's try to address it this way. Okay, how can we build upon that? How can we build upon that? And so on and so forth. But this is a great example of a global grant project that took around the world, which is what people normally think about. But the thing is, global grant projects can be done in our own communities as well. This is a project that is District 7170. They had issues with opioid addiction. They were trying to find a way to address that in their own community. They were figuring out how can we support people in these issues. So global grant projects aren't just global. They can be done right here in our own backyard and be done that way where we are the sponsor, we are the local sponsor, and someone else is there. So I always like to highlight that because I think there's this misconception that global grants can only be done in Africa and Asia, other parts of the world. They can be done in our own backyard to make a tremendous difference, and they continue to be. One of the other ones I always enjoy talking about is the Navajo Water Project out in Arizona in my previous territory. Probably one of the best grant projects that we've ever done because we partnered with an organization called Dig Deep and got Dig Deep going on this mission and created this. And now Dig Deep has expanded. And if you look them up now, they're addressing water needs in West Virginia. They've taken this and taken what they and Rotary did and gone on to do great things. So Rotary is inspiring other organizations to go on and do great things. So global grants continue to be our bread and butter of our most impactful projects around the world. But the one thing that we all talk about and all share is a passion to making sure we eradicate polio. This is a commitment that we have made for many, many years. And I will say, it has been a tough year on the polio front for everybody. We continue to see what feels like negative news after negative news after negative news. And it is hard to stay positive. It's a lot of people are saying, why are we still committed to this? How do we do this? Well, we're Rotarians. When we say we're going to do something, we're going to do something. And we look really poor if we backed away from it. And so, yes, there's a lot of negative. Cases are up this year, but there's also a lot of positives to think about. And every time I try to talk about that with people, I just show them this map. Look at what it used to be and look at where it is today because of what we've done. This is what we need to focus on. We need to focus on the positives of what we're doing and the good things that we've done. Everything we do is going to take negative steps back. But if we look at the good, that'll help us push forward. More than 3 billion children have been immunized because of the work of Rotary and our partners, and more than 20 million people who would have been paralyzed are able to walk. That right there is enough for us to continue to pushing on, because when we're this close, as you can see from the 2023 map, it'd be really silly for us to give up. And I can tell you, our Polio Plus team at Rotary and all of our partners around the world are committed. The Gates Foundation continues to be committed, and we're going to get there. It may not be as soon as we expected, but we're going to get to that goal. And I tell you what, there's probably not a bigger party that's taking place than the party that's going to take with all Rotarians around the world when we officially eradicate polio from the face of the earth. So polio continues to be one of our big things. But the other big push you've heard a lot this year is on our endowment. You've probably heard this tagline maybe thousands of times at this point. 2.025 by 2025. Well, I can tell you, folks, we're getting really close, and it's really exciting to see this progress. This is the chart as of September 30th, 2024. I can tell you this has changed a little bit since then based on the last report, but we haven't gotten it in chart form yet because it just happened, I think, Monday of this week. So what was our goal with this? Our goal was to get $2.025 billion in our endowment with combined net assets and future commitments. Net assets are up to 812 million, which has been a great increase. The markets have responded. Our investments are doing a lot better than what they were late last year and early when it kind of trended down. The commitments have been our biggest jump. We've gotten some large gifts. We recently received an anonymous estate commitment for almost $45 million to support our peace centers. We've had some other estate commitments recently where we thought the person had told us that it was going to be about 1,000 or 10,000, and it ended up being closer to $1 million gift that we received. So we're getting some great momentum in that category, and we're building forward. And I'll tell you, our new goal, we've kind of shifted targets a little bit. We're really trying to get to 2.825 billion any way we can in both of these buckets, because we know that's going to be valuable. So it used to be a firm set of, we got to get net assets to $1 billion, we got to get this to this. Our goal is combined now. Let's get to 2.025. And I really think we're going to get there because we continue to have strong months. And why is this important? Well, when we reach 2.025 billion, we're going to be able to spin off $50 million just in earnings from our endowment every single year. That's $50 million every year that will be available to help us do good in the world without having to raise that money. I want to share a quick video with you now about the endowment and how it kind of works. So I'm going to play that video. Hopefully my audio will work like it tested earlier. And I think it's just a great video to say, why is the endowment so good and what can it do?
Your legacy is Rotary's promise. Making a gift to the Rotary Foundation endowment is like planting an apple tree that grows to provide fruit year after year, to continue the impact of your annual gifts forever. Rotary is able to protect your legacy by responsibly investing your gift and spending only a portion of the earnings each year, so your gift can grow and provide more to the programs that mean the most to you. Your Rotary legacy is defined by how you want to change the world. Your legacy can be clean water, peaceful resolution to conflict, prevention and treatment of disease, healthy mothers and babies, a chance at an education, a healthier environment, thriving local economies, resources for priorities in your community, or all of these things, through the power of Rotary. By making a gift to the endowment now, or leaving instructions for a gift to come from your estate in the future, you have the power to shape the future of Rotary and the world. A gift or bequest of $5,000 can continue to provide $200 year after year forever. A gift of $25,000 can provide $1,000 each year forever. Now imagine for a moment what Rotary could do if everyone supported the endowment with you. We can change the future because you have the foresight and dedication to take action today. Plan your gift or include a bequest to Rotary's endowment. We're here to help. The promise of Rotary's tomorrow begins with what you do today. To learn more, visit rotary.org/legacy. Contact your local Rotary office or email plannedgiving@rotary.org. Your legacy is Rotary's promise. Your legacy is Rotary's.
There we go. I just really like that's one of our favorite videos we produced because it really demonstrates what the power of the endowment can do if you start it today or in the future. Because I think that's a common misconception with the word endowment. People assume that by supporting the endowment, I have to do it in my estate plans. You can do that, and a lot of people do that. But there's other people who have said, I want to start to grow the impact of that fund today. And it's great to see what money can do when it's spent, the earnings are only spent and it's invested over time. You will see growth and the more impact that gift will have. And it's great to see people doing that. So I want to kind of shift to how I encourage people to think about supporting the Rotary Foundation in personal conversations and in other ways. And the first thing I always want to talk to someone about is, like I just kind of mentioned, is it important to see your gifts in action today with outright gifts? Or are you okay with trusting the future of Rotary through our members in the future through a commitment of a future gift? And the one thing I'll tell you is at the Rotary Foundation, we value both of them pretty much equally. I've never worked for an organization that values future gifts almost as much as current day gifts. We give people that make future commitments pins. We recognize you in societies. We really want to make sure that people know that whether the impact of your gift will be felt in the future or today, it's going to make a difference around the world. So that's always the first question to think about. The next question is where? There's so many ways to give to the Rotary Foundation. And like I said earlier, there's no wrong way to support the Rotary Foundation. So the first one that a lot of people think about is annual fund. Annual fund is a great way to get started with your outright giving today. And some people make larger gifts to annual fund because they want their district to maybe have access to more district designated funds to do great projects both around the world and in your local community. Annual fund is fantastic. And I had someone tell this to me one time and it really struck with me. When you think about a gift to the annual fund and that portion that goes to the World Fund, some people are like, well, what is that money doing? The World Fund is what is inspiring global grant projects all around the world to take place. So if you think about it, every dollar you give to the Rotary Foundation through the annual fund is going to work around the world someplace at some time. Every single dollar is being put to use around the world. And think about that. You may be supporting a project in India. You may never know what that project is doing, but you know because of Rotary, it's changing someone's life through the great projects and through the World Fund. So annual fund is a great way to get started with giving to support the great current work of the foundation. There we go. Endowment fund share. Endowment fund share works fairly similarly to annual fund share. But through endowment fund share, when someone makes a gift or establishes a named endowed fund, only the earnings from this fund, so you can see they're still split between the World Fund and district designated funds. This is a great way to support the great work of your district and the World Fund in perpetuity. We have a lot of people that are looking at this way to give because they want to make sure that their dollars are continuing to be spent in their own district to make a local impact, but also to continue the support of Rotary for generations to come. Endowment fund share is a great way for people to continue to be a part of what Rotary is doing in their local communities for years to come. But there's also ways to customize it beyond that, right? You could give to an area of focus if you're really passionate about supporting that type of work. You can give to polio if you want to continue to support that. You can support our peace centers. We are here to partner with you to make sure your impact is felt where you want it to be seen, either in your local community and around the world. So first it's, okay, is it important today, tomorrow? Now we're talking about where. The next part is the nitty-gritty of it, and it's the ways to give. This is the least appealing part of it, the most data point, but it's important to think about what can I do to make a difference through the Rotary Foundation? And the answer is, we will work with you on most any way to give to the Rotary Foundation, whether it's cash or pledge, appreciated stock, a future gift in your will or trust, making us a beneficiary of an IRA, making us a beneficiary of a life insurance policy, retirement plan assets. We have so many ways that you can support the foundation, and we're here to have these conversations. We have experts, myself, our plan giving team, to walk this through with you, to ask the right questions and make sure. Really come to us and we'll try to help you out. One of my favorite stories to tell is my colleague in Iowa. She had a donor she was working with. He was a farmer. He said, hey, I have this thing that I really want to see if I can give to the Rotary Foundation. And she's like, okay, what is it? He's like, I have a bunch of corn. Can I give corn to the foundation? And instead of just saying, nope, we're not even going to look into it, Rachel went back to our gift administration team, said, hey, how can we make this happen? And by golly, we made it work. We partnered with them. We figured out how to sell it, transfer the money to the Rotary Foundation, and the donors became members of the Arch Clump Society because of the corn. So when I talk about most any asset, we will partner with you to figure out what way we can do it. And when you think about assets and things like that, it takes it beyond the checkbook. It's kind of utilizing stocks and IRAs, which are great ways to give, because that is what makes major gifts be possible today. People really kind of think about that word major gift, major donor. They're like, I will never be able to get there. But when you think about some of the things that you have to make a larger difference, it's wonderful to partner with people. Long-term appreciated stock, one of the best ways you can give to Rotary. You avoid capital gains, more of your dollars go to an impact. I have a donor here in the Charlotte area, Apple stock. She has held Apple stock since the mid-1990s. That stock's grown a little bit since then. That's become her charitable way of making a difference around the world. If you're 70 and a half, you can start using your IRA to make a difference. And it's amazing to partner with people that have been Paul Harris Society members their entire life, giving $1,000 a year. They're so passionate about Rotary, and they come to us and say, hey, I want to use my IRA to make a difference, make even a larger difference. And we work with them, and they're able to become major donors and Arch Clump Society members. And it's great to see that. We're learning more and more that a lot of people have donor advised funds. Send some of that money away. It's there to be put for a charitable use. Give that to the Rotary Foundation. And another great way with outright giving is pledges. Pledges are a great way to say, hey, I want to give maybe 10, we ask for pledges to start at $10,000, but I can't give that all up front. We can spread that out over 3 years and utilize your current giving to build towards that. We're here to partner with you and help you make a difference in the world. I have one last video I want to show you, and then I'll open it up for some questions. And it's just a thank you video. This video shows you where your dollars are going through the Rotary Foundation. See if this one works.
Your support is making a meaningful impact around the world. In Nigeria, your gift is ensuring mothers and babies receive vital health care. In Korea, a project prepared students with autism and other disabilities for a fulfilling career. In North America, your donations are combating waste and food insecurity. These are just 3 stories. This year alone, your contributions helped fund 1,285 global grants and 485 district grants. Thousands of communities are being strengthened, not just today, but for years to come. Communities now have access to clean water. Children are receiving life-saving vaccines like the polio vaccine. Economies are being strengthened, paving the way for future generations. Every contribution matters. Your generosity helped our foundation raise more than $417 million, creating positive change in the world. Together, we are making a difference. Thank you. Your support.
Yeah. And with that, I'll open up for questions.
Thank you, Jon, for that. That was a great presentation. And really, I think seeing all the different ways that people can give allows people to think over time how they can best make a difference. So if you guys have questions about specific giving or about the foundation in general, Candace, I'll let you start off. Mute.
You're good.
That remains one of the absolute best and clearest explanations of all of that I've ever heard. And so I really appreciate you coming back. And yes, there were some things that we learned that we didn't hear last year. My question though is about donor advised funds. Every time I hear that, I think I sort of know what that is, but not really. I know that we had a donor advised fund with Mark Michaelinsky for some environmental projects earlier in the year, but I still actually don't know what that is. Can you help me out?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually offer donor advised funds as a service to donors through Rotary, but they're also offered at a lot of different financial institutions like Fidelity and other things like that as well. Essentially, what a donor advised fund is, it's really like a charitable checking account. So people will transfer money into this account that's under their name. So let's say it's the Candace Wyman and fund. And then as you see or 501c3s, either with Rotary or not, that you want to support, you essentially send a check out of that donor advised fund. The advantage of a donor advised fund is you get the tax benefit when you put money into that account. So let's say you have highly appreciated assets. You can put that into the account, get the, as I said, no capital gains. The money sits there, it can grow over time. And then as you see projects and nonprofits that you want to support, you just send that money out into the good of the world, whether it's Rotary or not. It's really a great tool. We're finding a lot of advisors are encouraging people to utilize these for charitable good, mostly for the tax benefits. But when I said you put it there for a reason on that slide, one of the other things is advisors are telling people to put money in there and then people never access it again. So we're really encouraging people to say, hey, if you have it, use it. You put it there for a reason, and Rotary could be one of those reasons. So I hope that provides you some more information on exactly what those are, Candace.
Thank you. That really helps. Thank you.
Let's see. Ken, I saw a couple questions in the chat from you. Foundation grants. We have lists of grants, and I think, Julie, I think you have that. I think Lance, the district foundation chair may have a list of what grants your district did in the past Rotary year. We have access to some reports that show all of the projects available. We don't put that out publicly of all the projects that are done, but if you want some additional information about a certain type or a certain area, Ken, I'd be happy to try to pull something for you with that.
John, what we do in the newsletter each month, we usually put 20 or 25 of the district grants that we've have ongoing. So that's a kind of a rolling thing. And Bill Harley down in Clemson, he runs that program, and he has a complete list of all of the district grants. I don't know the global grants. How will we find information about the global grants?
We have some reports that I can pull for the district, and we can kind of see what's been done with that. That's probably the best way to start. That kind of track the behind the scenes work. But someone in the district, either the district governor or the DRFC, should have access to what grants have been approved and done. District grants wise, yes, you're going to have that information more than we will. But yes, Ken, I'm happy to pull some information on you in terms of what's been done in your district. And if you have a certain area of focus or something, I'm happy to pull some more information on that for you too. And then I saw one other one from you, Ken. I do not know the answer to that, actually. I would have to ask our grant staff for more information on that. They keep all the data and all the details. I'll see if I can track that down. It is not many. I will tell you that. We want these projects to be sustainable. So when someone does a global grant project, we want it to be sustainable. I'll say that the Guatemala Literacy Project is probably an anomaly in terms of the fact that it's been repeated so many times. We also want them to be able to grow and develop a little bit beyond that. So I'll look that up for you, Ken, but I do not know the exact answer off the top of my head right now.
John, do you have any unique global grants that are being done at this time?
You say global grants, Lance?
Yes.
Nothing is jumping off the page to me right now. This is where it's tricky for me sometimes, because I work so much one-on-one with donors and how they want to impact, and less of the actual grant projects that are being done by the members. I don't really get told exactly what projects are being done just right now. Those are the two that I've highlighted that I think are kind of interesting. You know, I love the Navajo one. There's some really good projects out there. I work with a donor who's very passionate about eye care work. And she is starting to really get involved with people that are doing helping people see and blindness projects, mostly in Nepal and India. But Lance, I don't have any off the top of my head right now. They're jumping out to me. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. I want to follow up about disaster grants. I understand that Rotary's run out of money for disaster grants because there's just been so many disasters. Can you give us an update on that?
Yes, you are correct, Lance, that our Rotary so disaster response has kind of taken on a whole different scope for Rotary kind of since 2018, and it's changed a little bit. So the disaster response fund is typically, when established, was supposed to be kind of a general fund for all disasters around the world. Well, then some disasters got elevated to a higher level, right? Such as the conflict in Russia and Ukraine, the earthquakes in Morocco, the flooding in Pakistan, where we kind of designated specific money. We've kind of taken back from that approach and have tried to make the disaster response fund more broad again. And so, yes, Lance, that money has all been granted out. There may be additional contributions coming into that fund, but the Rotary specific one that exists, yes, as far as I know right now, is at zero, but I do know of donors that are contributing to it. So in terms of disaster response, I want to highlight something, and I appreciate you bringing this up, Lance. You're hearing a lot of different funds that exist. So I kind of want to just provide some detail. So Rotary's Disaster Response Fund is the official fund of TRF to respond to disasters. If you give to that, you will get credit as if making a gift to the Rotary Foundation, just like you would for annual fund, area focus, or anything like that. There's another fund that is also out there called the Zone 3334 Fund that is being done by Patrick. That is its own entity. That is its own foundation. So if you give to that, you are doing great things. It is not a gift to the Rotary Foundation, but it's still doing great work and is a great way to give to support the response effort specifically in our zone. So yes, we encourage people to give to the Rotary Disaster Response Fund so that we have it available whenever disaster strikes. But yes, there has been some shifts of people supporting more local ones, which is totally okay, but it does kind of hinder Rotary's ability to respond as the foundation, if that makes sense.
John, I want to ask my last question is about projects of scale. That's something, Rotary's gotten into here recently. And one that comes to my mind is over in Nigeria, I think it was. Maybe it wasn't Nigeria, but it was a country in Africa. And malaria was a big issue. And Rotary came on board with a project of scale using $2 million, and then it was matched by $2 million by the Gates Foundation, and then another organization matched another $1 million. Can you kind of go into that? Because I think that's something relatively new that we're doing in the foundation.
Yeah, Programs of Scale started back in 2021. So it is a new initiative for us, and it may not be the right term, but I kind of call them global grants on steroids. They really take global grants to a whole nother level. And sometimes, Ken, as you mentioned about projects that are repeating, some of these projects started out as global grants and have grown outside of our global grant landscape and have become programs of scale. Really, what programs of scale are there? They're really focused on increasing our impact at a huge magnitude level and tackling really big issues. So like you said, Lance, a malaria-free Zambia was our very first one. And that was probably one of our best global grant projects. Sorry, my dog's reverse sneezing. Give me 1 second.
Reverse the sneeze.
Sorry, he reverse sneezes and I have to like go close his nose and it's weird. So sorry, I didn't mean to stop, but if otherwise I have to make sure he okay. So yes, so that was a great project and it took it to a whole nother level. What we asked with Program of Scale of Grant is yes, there's a $2 million contribution from our World Fund to go to the project, but we also asked for them to create large scale partnerships. So it's not just Rotary. So with Malaria Free Zambia, they were great. They had the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation become a part of it. And they also had, shoot, I'm blanking on the third one, but there was 3 big partners that went into it. That project was great. And now we've replicated it. So every year we're announcing a different one. One was recently to end cervical cancer in Egypt. The most recent one is now helping with farming in India. It's really a high scale project that is going to tackle a big issue around the world and receives additional funding. It's a more intense application process. It's a more intense review process than global grants, but it's a great way to take a project that's been working sometimes and expand it. And for the case of malaria-free Zambia, that's now being expanded even further into our Healthy Communities Challenge that people have heard of. So now they're taking that same kind of approach that they did with the malaria-free Zambia and are expanding that to other diseases in the Africa region. It's going to be about 6 projects that are going to take place with that. Rotary is contributing 10 million. Gates Foundation's contributing 10 million, and there's 10 million from, I am so blanking on the nonprofit that I'm the third party that we've partnered with on polio. It's just blanking from my head, but 3 people are coming together to expand that. And so that's what programs of scale are. It's really taking something that's kind of beyond the scope of a global grant project and elevating it with more money from the World Fund and some additional outside partners to get that project going, to take it to a whole new scale as it is. It's fascinating. And we're still developing how that's going to become better going forward.
Is the other organization the WHO?
It wasn't WHO. Why am I blanking so hard?
That's all right. Don't worry.
It's World Vision. World Vision. That's it. Goodness gracious, John. I should have known that one.
So,
John, I have a question about when you made the comment about the Zone 3334 disaster grant. So that is not going through the Rotary Foundation or RI at all. It's its own. They created a foundation specific to Zone 3334.
That is correct. Yes. So Zone 3334 is its own foundation, similar to sometimes clubs have their own foundation, right? It kind of works in that same way where it's doing great work associated with Rotary, but it is not officially the Rotary Foundation. So it's unique. I'm not going to say it's a bad way to give, because I think it's a great way to make a local impact, because they're able to do some things that Rotary can't 100% promise through our disaster response fund, but it's operating very similarly to how we operate. It's just its own entity. And last check, I knew they were getting close to almost $1 million in that fund to support the relief efforts, both in Florida and the other impacted areas within our zones.
And are there other zones that have set up disaster foundations like that you know?
I do not know. I know that this started in the Florida region. So 34 in Florida were the ones that really got this going, because they were the ones really seeing the impact of hurricanes and how they were responding. And some of the work goes back to before Rotary even had a disaster response fund. But it is just an avenue of that foundation. So I don't know if other zones have it. Some may have their own foundation, whether how they direct it to disasters, I'm not aware of that. This is unique to our area. I think given the frequency we see these devastations in our Zone 33-34 pair, and how that they wanted to have something that was quick to respond. And it's worked really well. I mean, they're giving out lots of money. Patrick has done a wonderful job creating some great partnerships. So it's doing a lot of good for Rotary, and it's a great thing. It's just not officially a part of the Rotary Foundation that way.
And Julia, how it works is that a club can submit up to $25,000, and it goes through then the district to approve it, and then it goes to a group of people, and then they approve that, and then it's up to the district to monitor and make sure the money is spent where they said that the money is going to be spent. But each club could get $25,000 for their area, and for the western part of North Carolina, this has worked out great. And and you're right, we're almost at $1 million collecting, and it's Zone 33-34. We have a treasurer. There's a number, that has been approved, nonprofit, and the whole 9 yards. So it is really something specific, and is not as detailed as it would be if you went to Rotary International to try and get some type of grant. It's a little looser, but the money is there. The impact is immediate, and it helps them out with no problem at all.
And I will say that our disaster response fund has been used in Western North Carolina. I know in talking to their DRFC Ken, they have applied for one grant, received it, and had a great experience. unlike global grants and district grant, unlike global grants, district grants where the process can take a while, typically once an application is received or our Rotary Disaster Response Fund, we have that turned around within 24 to 48 hours of getting the money to them for them to do good things. So it's unfortunate to hear that that fund is at zero, but it's still doing some great things through what I call Rotary Foundation adjacent. Still doing good things. It's just not directly through our Rotary Foundation.
Awesome. Thank you, John. And so I just, we wanted to thank you for speaking with us today about giving. And so to thank our speakers, we donate a book to a little free library. So this book has been selected to be donated in your name, The Giving Snowman. And we will be putting it in a little free library in one of our communities. And thank you so much for everything you've shared with us today. And really, I'm sure that if anyone has additional questions about giving, we know how to reach you, and we appreciate how available you make yourself to all of our members. So it's been great. And again, thank you to all of our club members who are so generous in supporting the foundation.